Welcome everyone to Water and Wellness Live. My name is Dr. Angela. I'm so happy that you all joined us this afternoon for this Q&A on water today with Robert Slovak. I have been in the health industry for about 20 years now. And when my friend introduced me to Robert a year and a half ago, I didn't know who he was. And I got to know him and I was like, oh my goodness, this man knows his stuff. And I was a bit confused because he's not a doctor, but he calls some of the top doctors his friends. And he's not an in-your-face media personality, but he's got his phone off the hook with people wanting to speak with him from all over the globe. And so I've had the pleasure and the privilege of getting to know him over the past year. And he is one of the most passionate people, most knowledgeable health experts. And he's got an uncanny knack for being able to explain some of the most complex things in just very fascinating ways. So I'm really incredibly blessed to be on with him. And I'm glad that you're all here as well. And if you do want to contact us or write some questions along the way, you can either type something in the chat box or in the Q&A section. I want to thank you all for being here and also for sending us over some of your questions already, because I do have quite a few to ask Robert. And then if time permits, we might open it up as well so that you can ask him some questions towards the end. So I think that one thing I want to mention real quick is that Robert has had different phases of his life. His first phase was as an astronautical and aeronautical engineer. And from there, he went into the water industry. Of course, you all know that he's been an expert for 40 plus years. During that time, just overseas, he helped to expand water technology, developing reverse osmosis and its different applications. He really is the go-to expert when it comes to water. Then the third phase of his life, which I think is kind of the most interesting, where he is really doing his best work, is now, where he is a health advocate. He is, after the age of 55 or around there, between 50 and 60, somewhere around there, he not only brought one of the most powerful nutraceuticals to the United States, but also expanded it globally, which is Quinton, which we sell out of quite often. He has also been an investor in Quicksilver, which is the most advanced liposomal nutraceutical company. He has, over a decade ago, he helped develop the first molecular hydrogen tablet. And beyond that, he has brought in deuterium depleted water from overseas. And he also has some of his favorite products with the company Water and Wellness. So that's where we're at. And I'm just very, very grateful to know you, Robert.
Well, thank you. That was the best introduction anybody's ever given. And the most accurate.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Water and Wellness is a very fitting name for this company. It is, we are water beings on a water planet. We evolved from water. So tell us a little bit about where we are in the state of water, some of the things that are most concerning at this present time.
Well, I mean, this is a very new thing we're doing, this webinar of Q&A and answering. We don't know what's going to happen today, okay? I mean, it is, water is the most vast subject, really. I mean, it's the largest industry in the world. And I'm actually can be corny at times, and I'm actually wearing my Water and Wellness
shirt. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
And I'm drinking my deuterium depleted water to keep me hydrated during this. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that it was so exciting for me to do this is which I've only done like to live audiences, is to recognize that the water, field of water, and what, especially from the perspective of consumers, is perhaps the most hazardous area in all of commerce for people to engage in. It is filled with more misinformation, more hype, more BS. You can just lap on the adjectives, and it is a crisis that I have to deal with every day. Mm-hmm. And some of you may remember the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, okay? I actually thought that maybe for 5 years, if I would give talks on water, everyone would get the points I've made and not have problems anymore. But I have a feeling that answering water questions is my Groundhog Day. It will always be confusing to people. And, you know, just in the last few days, people, this is the perfect example. People share in this failure to get the right information, because they write in and they just say, I mean, all it is an email with a question. What's the best water system for my house? Okay. And I want to explain, and sometimes I do if I feel they have a sense of humor. I said, asking what's the best water system for your house without having any clue what state you live in, without having any clue if you're on city water, town water, well water, water from a stream, and it is like walking into a doctor's office you don't know, and you just ask, Doc, can you write me a prescription? Okay. And of course, he would think it's totally absurd, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the problem we face. And we're going to try to get through some of this today, because I think a lot of you may have come on here because you're seeking to understand, what do I purchase? In the last week, I believe 4 customers who ultimately contacted me completely purchased the wrong, incorrect water system for their situation. And it's like, it's not enough to make you like tear up when they put thousands in and they go, wow, no one ever asked me the questions. And so that's what we're all about today, to get you to know and be familiar with what questions you need to ask. So with that said, do we just want to handle the first question? Or
well, first I thought maybe we can get on the same page here so that everybody understands that when we are born, for example, well, the fetus is 98% water.
Yes, it
is. When we're born, 75% of us is water. And then as we age, as adults, we're typically around 65%. And then also by death, we're around 50%. So if you look at that, we are constantly in a state of dehydration as we age. And really 95% are in some state of dehydration. So Robert.
Okay, so did you enable my screen sharing? Because I think
you should be able to share the screen.
There's a few little minor formalities, I think, that set the philosophical goal of our talk. I think everybody can see this. This is one of my favorite quotes by one of the favorite geniuses of water, Martin Chaplin from the UK. He's maybe 100 times smarter than me, maybe 1,000. And he just, after all he knows, liquid water is not a bit player in the theater of life. It's the headline act. Well, son of a gun, he got it. And I think I'm going to go through just minutes, a few minutes of telling you about water on our planet, kind of how it got here.
Please.
Here you go. The Earth started forming 5 billion years ago. And those of you who remember the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, So this is quite after the Big Bang happened, that made all the elements of the periodic table. The Earth started to form as a member of the solar system with the sun at the center. And it started to form from just space rock, space dust, and it all attracted one another and conglomerated together. And then what was the Earth made out of? It was just made out of the 92 natural elements of the periodic table. Please get to know what this is. Everything in the universe is made of this little chart. It blows my mind. And this is the first 92, all of even the kind of the manufactured elements, because we can make those things in nuclear reactors and stuff, but 92 of them make the whole universe, everything from water to fat to stars, you name it. And what happened, they think, in an event called the Late Heavy Bombardment, is that somewhere about 500 million years after the Earth started to form, comets, which are composed of a lot of ice, water in the ice phase, bombarded Earth for, it's almost hard to say it because it doesn't seem possible, but for almost 100 million years, we ran into like the massive comet shower, okay, of all time. And those comets deposited on Earth water. And it actually, they say, covered the planet with water 4.2 billion years ago. And then we're going to end with this. That water dissolved the Earth that was made out of the periodic table, giving way to the primordial ocean, which is the only aqueous solution of the entire periodic table in the known universe, the place where life began. And maybe it has begun other places, maybe there's water, but nobody knows about it. And I think this is, quite revealing in how we got our start. So with that said, we can move on now to the more practical stuff, but I want everybody, and I'm like I can't resist teaching science, and especially when people don't have a clue about the universe that they came into and so on. So I like to teach, and you guys just got a dose of it.
That's why we love you. But Robert, I'm getting the messages that nobody saw your screen. So did you try to share the screen?
I did.
Okay. All right, well, we're having a little bit of a glitch there.
You know what? I don't even see, Angela, I don't even see my Zoom screen anymore. Ouch.
I can see
I mean,
though.
You know what? This happens more
it's
than
okay. We'll just run with it.
Okay, am I okay as far as you're concerned? And
yeah, everybody can see us, so we're okay with that.
How can I even get back to the Zoom screen? Because I have a few things that are just necessary to show. We better get it taken care of. I don't, let's see, how about,
let's see. So we're getting touch the escape key.
We're getting what?
What happens if you touch the escape key?
Oh, I see. Okay, I see your screen finally.
Okay.
And what if I do this?
Right. Let's just go ahead with the questions, Robert.
Huh?
Oh, I see your screen now.
Well, we're going to keep everybody till at least midnight, so it's okay.
You could go till midnight, I know.
Hey guys, I'm going to just show you. We're not even going to talk about it. I'm going to show you those slides. You might as well see what it is, right? Can you see that now, Angela?
I can see it.
Okay, here you go. Earth forms 5 billion years ago from space dust and space rock around the sun, starts orbiting. Earth is composed of the 92 natural elements of the periodic table. 500 million years after the Earth started forming, it runs into a comet shower, not a meteor shower, but a comet shower for millions of years. The comets deposit their ice. which melt on the hot, cooling Earth planet, it covers the Earth with water. There was a point where the Earth was completely covered with water, and the finale was, and this is it. This is the secret. This is all what Keaton realized, etc. The water that was deposited on the Earth dissolved the periodic table of the elements to their natural solubilities, making the primordial ocean in which life began. And we're the only known entity or planet on in the universe, really, that has this life-giving ocean made of the periodic table and water. That's it. Thanks. Beautiful.
So Robert, let's transition into the different phases of water, because we have a lot of people who have asked us about the structuring of water. And it's a place to start, but
okay,
since
so there's four, there's four phases of water. I mean, if we're talking just pure science, there's obviously liquid water, there's solid water in the form of ice, there's water vapor, that's the gas phase of water, and then scientists, researchers took the liberty of saying, hey, water does take on other arrangements of its molecule, and they call this water another phase. The most popular was that which was taught to us by Professor Gerald Pollack in Washington and his team, and they discovered the fourth phase of water, which they call easy water for exclusion zone. We could talk for several hours just on that. But this is the water that is also sometimes referred to as the gel phase. And it's a unique arrangement of layers of water that are kind of charge modified way beyond this discussion today. And this is the water as it should be arranged inside our cells. And it's very unique in how it supports the cellular functions. So those are the phases that we tend to know about the most.
So that's the H3O2 that Dr. Pollack speaks of. Yes. Do you agree that the 70-90%, 70-90% of the water in our body is in this form?
I'm not sure about the state of humanity's health. I believe it is extremely impaired, this water. I mean, I think ideally life is supposed to have this arrangement of water, but I believe that this phase has many defects in it, largely as a result of toxins and especially electromagnetic radiation of all types.
Okay, so you're saying that the EMF fields are going to impact.
Yes, every type, both natural and artificial, and it is just a new frontier of science and toxicity, et cetera. And it's very, it's very sad. And other people also call their water, some people refer to another fourth phase of water is, dioxytetrahydride, which is H4O2, and they call this the fourth phase too. It's not a popular thing, but and I'm not even sure it's well-founded, but like other things in the water business, there's just a lot of made-up facts, as we say.
Okay. So is the water in our fruits and vegetables considered structured in our produce? It is.
And let's not make this structured water. There's 100, maybe 1,000 kind of structured waters. And we use the term much too lightly, and consumers are way too romanced about it, like it's a thing. Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many the structured water in your cell. It's even though people tend to pretend that it could be put in a bottle okay? And you drink this and it goes through your digestive tract and ends up as H3O2 in your cells. I discount that completely as BS. And these water structures, which have delicate hydrogen bonds and vibratory functional bonds and quantum states, when you put that water, any structured water, and remember, you can induce structured water to take where the water structures take on maybe pentagonal arrangements of the water molecules or hexagonal arrangements. These are very delicate arrangements that are changing and vibrating millions of times a second. And when you put it through your digestive tract, especially the stomach at a pH of 1 to 3, if anyone thinks that that water stays all intact, you are absolutely misleading yourself. Okay? It's one of the most misinformation aspects of water that there is. That's, oh, structured water is something special. I would ask, well, what structured water? Do you know what affects that structured water? How long does it last? Are you holding it in a bottle? There's so many.
Let me ask you something then. What are you doing when you're putting your water that you took out of the AquaTrue in your morning sunlight? What is your goal in doing that? The bonds of the water are absorbing energies into of basically, let's say, in the infrared zone, and preparing that water to be more durable in arriving at the cells in a form that is going to end up as structured water. Also, the direct exposure of red light and far infrared light on the skin, which penetrates into the water of the body, that this also assists in absorbing energies into the bonds of the water that are in the fluids of your body to prepare them for being structured in the cell. It's very important. It's one of the greatest missing links to health is photonic exposure to enhance the energy of water in the body's fluids. Okay, so that ties into your practice of sun gazing in the morning.
Well, sun gazing is really strictly the optic nerve, okay? Sun gazing. But early morning exposure is really what you're doing, as much of the body area as possible. But sun gazing is yet another thing that is fascinating. And even though we don't have time to cover it, some of you should look up for a story that's probably one of the most unbelievable in all of health, is the NASA test of an Indian sun gazer whose initials are HRM, I believe. Just put those things together in the search engine and you're going to have your jaw drop several times while you're reading it. So sun gazing, it may be one of the most profound things we can do in our existence on the planet.
Robert, we're getting a lot of questions, of course, about alkalinity. And since you and I like to bust the myths about alkalinity, why don't we talk about that next?
Okay.
What is the difference between alkalinity and pH, or buffering capacity, and also these ionizing water machines when they say that they are helping the body? Tell us a little bit about that. Okay,
so I'm not a fan of alkaline water. I dispel the importance of having water that has a high pH, simply because pH has been so misinterpreted, and an alkaline pH only tells you the degree to which the water is ionized. So a pH of 10, which is often used as water that is healthier because it's alkaline, and they purport that alkaline water has functions of alkalizing the body. And it's a total misconception, because pH doesn't imply any degree of buffering. So you can have a pH of 9 that can buffer a considerable amount of acid, or a pH of 9 that can hardly buffer any acid. It's just the chemistry that has been misinterpreted. And I believe that one of the alkaline water proponents, and I understand he was a fantastic man, a Korean engineer called Sang Hwang, who wrote many of the early books on the benefits of alkaline water, did not understand the difference between alkaline pH and alkalinity in the water. So it's very much the same difference, and sometimes people still don't even get this, as the difference between temperature and heat, okay? So temperature, just the word temperature, really can't tell you. It tells you the degree of something, but it doesn't tell you if it can heat your house, okay? That's its capacity. So, you know, a fireplace and a match both burn at 451 degrees Fahrenheit. But only one can heat your house. Certainly the match can't. Right. And that's very analogous to how people misinterpreted pH and alkalinity. So what is alkalinity? Alkalinity is actually stuff. pH is just a measurement. But alkalinity is the sum of the anions bicarbonate, carbonate, and hydroxide. And those, the definition of alkalinity, are the constituents of a solution that can neutralize acid. So if you are using something to make alkaline water, let's say electrolysis process, and the water has an alkaline pH, let's say of 10, it does not assure that it has significant alkalinity to achieve what you hope it will achieve, and that's to alkalize the body, okay? So in fact, when you use the electrolysis process, and the water you use for the electrolysis process and the water you may hook up your alkaline ionizer to, you add very little alkalinity to that, if any. So it's no better than your tap water, even though its pH is higher.
Right.
Furthermore, the worst place to put a pH, an alkaline pH solution, is into a body, an organ in the body called the stomach, with a pH of 1 to 3, which instantly will overcome and acidify that water. So I ask people, well, what does it do then? If it's instantly acidified, you're just playing a game of chemistry.
Exactly.
So now, how do I change that situation? How do you really make it have alkalinity, which can neutralize acid? Well, you could add like baking soda to it, a sufficient amount of baking soda as an alkalizing component to reduce metabolic acidity in the body. And it's a big question. And we happen to have a special blend of mineral compounds that is called Active pH Restore.
That's what I use. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I use it, frankly, you know where I put it. And people told me about this. Robert, have you ever put this like a scoop in your coffee every morning? and it is fantastic. It like makes it creamier, milkier. I'm not sure what, but it's very mellow and wonderful tasting coffee. And I just did it this morning. So people have this misconception. So, but what happened? I mean, I actually have called alkaline water as a scientific misconception that became $1 billion business. You know, I'm famous for that statement.
Right.
And
so true.
You know, and if you really are making, if you want alkaline water, well, use it and then put some baking soda in it, or some active pH restorer. It will definitely give you what you bargained for.
So if somebody's taking this and they want to do some testing to see where their physiology is at, what do you usually tell people? I mean, I know what I do, but.
Well, I tell them to you know, there's many neat little guide reference books about measuring the pH of your urine and saliva, and there's a lot to it. And I happen to, you need to use simply, you know, pH paper like this. pH 5.5 to 8 is the typical one that you would use because it's in the range. And you know, there's all kinds of rules about measuring the morning pH and how to accommodate that, and measuring it throughout the week to see how it varies, see what you eat and write things down. And there's some magnificent guidebooks. Just find one on the internet, you know, how to properly measure your pH of your urine and saliva.
Yeah, exactly. And I look at anion gap and then general markers. What was that?
And what was that?
I look at anion gap and other markers of inflammation as well, just as general indications of acidity and inflammation in the body.
From a blood test?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other thing I wanted to mention real quick is, because people really do ask this a lot, is because of those ionizing machines and they feel like their health really improves on that alkaline water. We really find that that is because of the hydrogen gas that is generated by them. But they're such low levels that you might as well take a molecular hydrogen tablet and get the clinical effectiveness of the higher concentrations.
And it was a bit of a self-conscious thing on their part. You know, at first they were trying to sell for more than a decade, maybe 15 years. They just went on the high pH was the best thing since sliced bread, and it isn't. And then when people actually, they didn't recognize at first that their electrolysis-based systems actually made some molecular hydrogen, H2 gas. I mean, it comes off of the cathode in the electrolysis device inside the alkaline ionizer. And so when molecular hydrogen H2 started to become popular, they said, well, we make some of that too. And it's in the early days, they did not make very much molecular hydrogen. So what's very much? Well, most of the alkaline ionizers, like traditional alkaline ionizers, make, you know, at best 1.5 ppm of molecular hydrogen, and which is the saturation atmosphere of molecular hydrogen. But now there are other ways of enhancing it, maybe to even double that, by using other technologies such as proton exchange membranes, but still nothing beats the tablet for making the sheer high concentration and volume of molecular hydrogen. And you know, it's not difficult to go to between 6 and 10 parts per million with the tablet. And it really, even though that number does have to do with the volume of water you mix it in, but the tablet gives you the facility to make anything you want, really. And you can use it, you know, we now have tablets for topical application, for strain and other inflammatory conditions. So molecular hydrogen actually became far more than I realized it was in 2010 when I co-crafted that first hydrogen tablet. And now I'm just, I stand back and I'm in awe
You really are ahead of your time with everything, Robert. It's really fascinating to me.
Great researchers have just discovered, hundreds of physiological benefits of molecular hydrogen. And, we should tell them, I'm sure everybody knows it by now, but please go on Tyler LeBaron's superb website, Molecular Hydrogen Institute.com. molecularhydrogeninstitute.com. Please go on that. You will learn everything you want to know about molecular hydrogen, et cetera, et cetera.
And you have a lot of very well-educated customers. It's amazing with Water and Wellness. It's like a grassroots company. It's spread through word of mouth, and because people trust you and they've met you and they know you're passionate about health. And, a lot of people are interested in the testing. So we've had a lot of customers who have come and tried your molecular hydrogen tablets and use the H2 Blue reagent to see how high it is in comparison to, some of the machines or some of the other tablets. So I encourage people, if you're kind of nerdy like us and you like testing, just get some H2 Blue reagent.
Right. And the H2 Blue, I'm like trying to be like Mr. I have everything. Here's H2 Blue. It's a solution. We don't make it. We offer it, and you can buy it a number of places. H2 Blue, you put drops in. I wouldn't bother doing it because it's a tedious process unless you're a little chemist, unless you just love doing that when you come home from work. It can be tricky to get it to operate.
Robert, let's shift gears a little bit. I would like you to talk about TDS, total dissolved solids.
Oh.
And can you explain them? How do people measure if they want to get a TDS meter to compare? It's a great way to compare the effectiveness of various purification units.
Somewhat. And it's
to some degree, yeah.
This is part of the misinformation and fooling of the customer. And I wonder, would it be, I would like to go get my TDS meter because I actually forgot it. Can I get it? You have any problem with that?
You can show it.
Okay. Yeah, I want to show it. Hold on.
Gives me a chance to look at some of the questions here that have been coming in. We will try to get to as many of these as possible. And if there are some that we won't get to, we're going to have a product webinar next week as well. And we will record these so we can share them with you. We can get back to you, no problem.
Okay. Quick explanation of total dissolved solids. Take a cup of water, put it in a saucepan, boil all the water away, and the stuff that's behind, that's like a dust, light gray dust, or maybe a little more brown or something. It can come in all colors. That's the total dissolved solids.
Okay.
It's the sum of the mineral salts that are dissolved in the water.
Is it the same as the hardness of the water?
The hardness is part of it. The hardness specifically refers to the calcium and the magnesium that when you finally boil the water away and it comes out of solution, the hardness combines with the alkalinity to form what people call, oh, how come I have that scale on my shower glass or on my faucet? When sometimes you have a faucet and it has like white stuff stuck on it. That's calcium carbonate from the hardness in the water. So the sum of calcium and magnesium happens to be called the hardness. And the hardness can be measured. You can buy this on Amazon too, along with their pH paper if you like. I don't like touting Amazon too much, but there's little test strips, almost like pH, because it's good to know your hardness, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And they're little strips that have a little end on it, and they're light green. They have been my whole career. And you just dip it in water and it turns one of those colors, and that tells you how much hardness. So many people deal with hardness is not a health concern. In fact, there are, I mean, one could say that hardness are among the two more beneficial mineral compounds in water. But aesthetically, from the standpoint of showering, how nice your hair is, how your laundry comes out, how the dishes come out, they're the pain, okay? And water hardness is like, we deal with it all the time. And, you know, modern affluent consumers don't like hardness in the water, so they use a water softener.
Hey, Robert, so clarify for me, the hardness you're saying is just calcium and magnesium, or it's the really all-encompassing all of the trace minerals?
Nope, nothing, it's just, because the other things are too soluble and they get continually rinsed away, but the hardness, once it forms, it stays.
I see. Okay. So then how effective is the AquaTrue for reducing TDS count overall?
You know, well over 90% of removing all of the dissolved solids. So a great question would be, oh, wait, didn't you say the dissolved solids include the calcium, magnesium, and the trace elements? And don't I want those in my water? Well, yes and no. First, the tap waters of the world are not especially good for their variety and quantity of minerals and trace elements. It's all over the place. If you went to 50 cities across the United States, it would look like 50 completely different formulas of minerals and trace elements. First thing you would know is there's almost no trace elements in the water to begin with. So maybe you'll have 10 or 15 minerals in the water that would show up on a water test, and they're all over the place. Some of them have more calcium than magnesium, some have more sulfate, some have more chloride, etc. The minerals that typically come in a water and from a natural water supply or a city water supply are not worth one's attention when you truly realize the importance of mineralization and hydration in the body. What is the key is having the entire periodic table. You want to always recreate with your water supply a condition similar to what you evolved in, and that was the sea. And it's not in the concentration of the sea, it's just in the variety and the proportions of the minerals and trace elements. And there's over 70 of them, okay? So over 70. And the two greatest researchers in minerals that aren't with us anymore just said they didn't get all the way through all of them, but they said the body definitely needs and uses metabolically for all of its functions more than 60 elements of the periodic table. And
yes,
you
and
know,
more than 60.
The biggest thing is that food doesn't contain the elements anymore because we've used modern agriculture in a brutal way, and we've depleted the world's soils. And I mean, it's something I can talk about, but I still can't talk about it as good as this man,
Dr. Dunning.
I direct all of you to, and this is Dr. August Dunning, a brilliant astrophysicist, kind of like similar to what I did, but something hit him, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, and he goes, oh my God, there's no more minerals left in the soil. And oh my God, there's no more minerals left in the food. And he asked his staff or his, whatever, grad students or something, hey guys, would you plot the content of minerals in vegetables since 1900 to 2020? Or, produce, all kinds of produce. And they did. And he goes, would you guys plot the increase in changes from 1900 to 2020 of chronic disease? And the minerals went down and chronic disease went up in exactly the same way. And if you guys go on his, in his a brilliant presentation called Habitat Crisis, there's several versions, do it, you will learn a lot and start to understand this. He now owns, the last I've heard, he now owns a company that processes sea solids to be added to the world's agriculture. So you return the seed to the soil.
Absolutely, that's what we need. And that's why we're such fans of adding ketone back in to the water.
Oh, there's the chart right there.
Yeah.
Minerals on your left going down over the 100 years and chronic disease going up over the 100 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. Robert, we've had so many questions regarding ketone and how to use the ketone minerals in combination with the AquaTrue. But first, let me ask you, I've heard you say multiple times that the very best purification methods are reverse osmosis plus activated carbon or distillation plus activated carbon.
Correct. And I'd like to tell you why. Mm-hmm. And I hope I can find this with great facility. Maybe that's it. Nope. Maybe it's going to be up here. Sorry. Here we go. I don't know if people can see that too well. I hope you can. I apologize. But these are actually available from us. These are charts I made up that list all of the major categories of contaminants that can be in water supplies. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I think maybe there's one after this that shows that this is the first page. I couldn't capture the second page. But the first one is just like heavy metals. I mean, they include, arsenic and mercury and lead, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of those. Other ones, inorganic molecules, would be probably none of our viewers would like to have fluoride in the water, okay? It's an inorganic, it's tough to get out. But then we have, if you notice, there's something called synthetic organic chemicals. Those are all the pesticides, herbicides. Glyphosate is a synthetic organic chemical. Then we have volatile organic chemicals like gasoline, benzene, alcohols from the petroleum industry. All these, I mean, your car is dripping these 24 hours a day on the road and they're getting washed into the water. So you've got that. And then we'll go back and you have, we have to disinfect the water, correct, Angela? Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that bacteria and virus and protozoa exist in water supplies and we have to control it. In fact, I'm somewhat passionate about disinfection. At the same time, I fear it. I'm passionate about disinfection because we couldn't imagine before 1913, like millions of people were dying. And frankly, millions of people are still dying now in third world and fourth world countries. But before, they were dying in what we would have called the advanced countries. Because people didn't even know. There was a time there were public water systems. People didn't even know there was something called bacteria. And bacteria can be pathogenic, and if it's in the water, it will kill people. I mean, kill people by the millions. So in 1913, perhaps something that may be the greatest world saver ever is Clorox. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mean, they made sodium hypochlorite, which is what Clorox is. For the first time in 1913, it started to add it to the water, and kaboom. No more people died where they did it. So it's a big deal. So it saved people. Now, is it good to drink chlorine and other chlorinated compound? Not really, but it's better than dying. And then in more late times, 20 years ago, they discovered, oh my God, there is one worse thing. Another bad thing about disinfection chemicals, that they can combine chemically with organic matter in the water, such as like molecules of dead leaves and twigs and so on. Mm-hmm. And a reaction occurs to make something called, they call them disinfection byproducts. Mm-hmm. Okay. And these things are typically very toxic in the way of carcinogens. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they're in almost every water supply. And one of the groups that's most important, and now I'm starting to educate you people as to what to ask for somebody who's selling you a water purifier. Even though many of them lie, I just want you to know that trihalomethanes are a group of chemicals that are in the category of disinfection byproducts. They're formed from chlorine plus organic matter. And these are carcinogens, and they also, over time, in a young woman that's exposed to it, you know, in her house in Los Angeles, whatever, this can end up causing miscarriage.
Right.
And it's very rarely spoken about. And it's a horrible thing that the water industry has done and hidden this. And so remember that trihalomethane. And then there's pharmaceuticals in the water, endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Right.
There's radioactivity in the water, microbes in the water, et cetera, et cetera. So these 2 pages list the categories. And when you now said, Robert, I heard you say distillation plus activated carbon and reverse osmosis plus activated carbon were the 2 preferred methods for this group of this audience. This audience, we just assume, is a very health-minded audience. And you care about things like this. And many people don't. But you care about things like this. So you want something, just because it's technologically available, that can remove every one of these categories to a sane level, to where it will not harm your life. Okay?
Right.
And so distillation plus activated carbon is a team. And reverse osmosis plus activated carbon is a team. And both do very well and are very different. Most people prefer reverse osmosis plus activated carbon simply because it's more convenient, it's out of sight, it doesn't heat the water, it doesn't use a lot of electricity. And that's the main difference.
Since you brought it up in comparing different products that are on the market, of course, we've had a lot of questions that come in about different products like the Berkey, like you know, and I don't know if you want to address that here, but there's also that red flag of when a company says, oh, we removed 99.9% of the fluoride. Tell us why that might be a red flag.
Okay. Maybe it's a little premature to go this route right now, but since you're bringing it up, I think we could. And it's part of blatant deception. There's almost no words I can tell you of the trickery used by companies to fool you with information and data to show that their product removes all these contaminants, okay? And there are 2 products, I will not even name them, that if we were just to sit in a room with all of our audience and we handed out copies of all of what we call the contaminant removal performance data, like how well does it do on all these contaminants? Mm-hmm. There would be 2 products, at least, but 2 products that everyone would go, well, these are the best performing products of all. These don't even use distillation plus activated carbon or reverse osmosis plus activated carbon. They use something more conventional, but they outperform everything. And this exists in the industry and thousands of people, perhaps every day or every week, are fooled and misled by bad information. And I am in the process with others of exposing this. Now, here is something you all should know. And it's part of the sadness of this tale. 20 years ago, the industry of water decided to join in with international standards institutes to develop standards of performance for water categories. You know, everybody knows that if you make something electrical, like, you know, a plug or something, you have to make sure it's going to be approved by UL, and so it won't short out or electrocute you and so on. But the water industry decided to do it too. I happen to be on that first team that started to write the standards for every kind of product: carbon filters, reverse osmosis, distillers, softeners, et cetera, et cetera. And the company that hosted this event was called NSF. In those days, it was called National Sanitation Foundation because they also guarded restaurant things, but now it's just called NSF. And since then, 2 other organizations have appeared to do the same thing. And one is called IAPMO. It's here in Los Angeles. And the other is the Water Quality Association, Gold Seal in Chicago. So these 3 companies, we can view them as guardians by testing products. And they have standards, each one, like standard 53 is for removal of a certain area of contaminants, and standard 58 is for reverse osmosis system, and standard X is for microbial removal for camping filters, okay? It's everything. And it's very tough. It's very
rigorous and expensive.
Very rigorous, no BS.
Right.
However, people have a way to get around everything. It is common, and there's not good policing simply because this is a government thing and governments are run out of money. But people lie that they've used these standards, okay? And they've manipulated these standards. And here's a way to do it. Let's say I tell you that my filter removes 99% of a contaminant. Okay? Sir, how does it do on trihalomethanes? Oh, damn, it reaches 99%. You will be 99% of the customers will be very happy with that. Oh my God, dear, that's like, it removes 99%. What they don't tell you is the standards all have a very specific 99% for what volume of water, for what level of
for how long?
And that is where they slide by.
That's terrible.
Where the AquaTrue had to be tested for hundreds and even thousands of gallons. You have to it's very strict to do this. You have to test the full expected life of the machine. Others may put in not 100 or 1,000 gallons. They may put in just 2 gallons, but you never read the fine print, or the fine print was never even there to disclose that. This is fooled hundreds of thousands of consumers who've done their best to select the best water purifier. And it's becoming an epidemic, okay? It's becoming an epidemic. All I can tell you is this. Your first guardian is, if you are a very health-minded consumer and you're on a public water supply and there can be an undefined number of contaminants in the water, you want most of the contaminants on this 2 pages out, you have to use distillation plus activated carbon. before reverse osmosis plus activated carbon.
Absolutely.
Now, I have a caveat for reverse osmosis. And this is one of the most like heartbreaking things of my career, because I'm probably more, my brother and I are probably more associated with reverse osmosis systems for drinking and so on than anybody, because we designed most of them over 50 years or 40 some years.
But it was in 1975 that you came out with your first under sink.
Yes,
RO?
and we were building them even earlier than that, but cruder, and that's when the membranes were hanging from our shower stall in Corona. Okay, but it did go back that far. And for those of you who don't know, we maybe have a little fun. This is a reverse osmosis membrane. Most of you bought reverse osmosis systems and don't even have any idea what's doing it. It's this mysterious, looks like a rolled up filter, nothing glamorous really. And this is what's in every reverse osmosis system. And this will only process about 50 to 70 gallons per day. Way more than you would drink. And sometimes that became a problem. But I want to show something that I've only shown once before a Zoom audience. No, in fact, it wasn't even before a live audience. This, when we take off the tape, we get something that looks like this. And it looks like something is rolled, almost like paper towels, around a tube.
Yeah.
And this material, everybody get the idea of this? Mm-hmm. Here is a reverse osmosis system unrolled, okay? And actually this would work just like this if we could use our imagination and put pressure on each side of this membrane. There's actually two membranes, one on this side and one on this side, and there's a channel in between them of like a special fabric, and this will remove anything from water. And this is what's in the aperture, this very thing.
So is it true, Robert, that membrane separation, that has more to do with the charge rather than the size of the molecules?
It is really a double whammy, charge and size.
I see.
It's much more complicated, and it's you know, the reverse osmosis is lure in its early days was the fact that you could turn seawater into fresh drinking water. That's what drove the whole science, and it was one of the most exciting moments in the history of technology. Mm-hmm. And now we make drinking water from it. We do hundreds of things with reverse osmosis membranes, including making concentrated juices without heating it.
It's fascinating. And so we know that you were involved in the very early stages with your brother and taking this technology to other applications. But we also know that 10 years later, you were the one that came out and you said there is an inherent risk in the undersink RO tanks. Basically that when they're shipped to the manufacturers, they could have grime on them from the shops, and that there was a butyl rubber bladder in the tanks that could be essentially be a nutrient for microbe proliferation. So you're the one that came out and said that, at that point there can be some problem, and you sent out an industry-wide alert to make sure that they are pre-sanitized before installation, and also that they're re-sanitized every 6 months or whenever the filters are replaced. However, we both know that there are a lot. What was that?
Did your home?
Say that again, Robert.
I got a little.
There's a little bit of.
Or someone's is. But anyway, yes, I as well, and it didn't come to full light. Are you here? Angela?
Okay, now I can hear you, Robert. Can you hear me?
Okay, because you went like still picture, like Mona Lisa.
Oh,
and
I think we're good now.
Not well. Okay.
Okay.
I don't think you heard what I said.
I didn't.
How is it now? Okay, so it wasn't until the advent of autism that this came to light, because it was also the era in which we were realizing the significance of the microbiome and its connection with autism. Are you okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay, so when I first spoke at an autism community, realizing that many people who were in the audience, parents of children with autism, had an under sink reverse osmosis system that had the suspect tank that became a microbial incubator, I told them they could not give this water from an RO system. Because I had realized I had to come up with a solution to it. And I did actually for 3 years in a row and told women. Are you still with me, Angela?
Yeah, I am. Yep.
Your picture is totally still now, not moving.
Yeah, you're coming in and out for me.
Okay, so are you. What should we do?
Let's see here. Can you hear me now?
Do we want to consult our
Can you hear me
team?
now? Robert, can you hear me?
No.
Hey, Robert, can you hear me?
Hey.
Robert, your connection's coming in and out. Can you stop sharing your screen and just...
What do you think?
Can you do me a favor and stop sharing your screen? Maybe that will help.
Done.
Okay, let's try that.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking, I can see it's still not good because you're not moving. Your picture's just, and it says
okay,
again,
we can
your
hear you.
internet connection is unstable. Okay, good enough. I'll keep going. So
start with the autistic
the bottom
children.
line is that under sink traditional. Have me shut off my camera?
Yeah, try just shutting off the camera for now.
Okay.
Okay, let's try that.
Okay. Sounds good. But you're still frozen. So the bottom line we want to communicate here is traditional, conventional RO under sink, permanently installed under the kitchen sink RO systems have a problem.
Right.
And that problem, it must be, people need to be aware of this, especially this health uh, informed community, because you don't want to be taking in a bunch of alien bacteria in high numbers. But the sad fact is, the dirty little secret, if you will, that never been really exposed except by me, is that under sink and RO systems breed bacteria in that tank.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not something just sanitizing it, which almost no one does before it's installed, and sanitizing it on a regular basis. It's probably not going to happen, because it's a process and procedure. What I tell, please, if you are a health-minded person, if anybody has any kind of health condition, especially, then you are to drain this system multiple times a week until there's no water. And draining it is meaning just open the faucet. There's nothing you have to do under the sink, just drain it. It's not the, yes?
Robert, we even have some very sick families that will take their RO water from that undersink tank, then they will use that for their AquaTrue. And then after that, they will apply a Sterapen to the water. And that's in really serious conditions, very, very sensitive. You know, that's something that you've said before, is people can get a Sterapen and try that, but really the best option is getting the AquaTrue, the countertop unit, very cost effective.
Yes, and I mean, I think it's an over, it's an overkill to use your under sink RO, but it's certainly okay also. I mean, it's a lot of bother. And frankly, with the Sterapen, which I'm and show you a Sterapen. This is a device that has an ultraviolet disinfection bulb in it. It's that big. You can take it camping, traveling, and in your house. And if you have suspicious water supplies, you're worried about microbial contamination, then you just put this in a glass or a carafe of the water. It's all waterproof, and you turn it on. You can't turn it on unless there's water, so you won't see it.
Hey, Robert.
And this turns on and it disinfects. Huh?
I was just
what
going
did you
to
say
real quick, what would you say about people who are inquiring about mold and mildew using the AquaTrue?
Can they remove?
Well, they're just concerned about any growth. Do they have anything to be concerned about?
Okay, I'm not hearing you completely.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying, what would you say to those people who are concerned about mold or mildew using the AquaTrue?
You mean mold or mildew in the AquaTrue?
Yes.
Okay, if you have a high concentration of airborne mold and mildew, then I would upgrade my.
You're cutting out again for me. Hey, Robert, you're cutting out and I cannot hear you.
I believe you, and I've turned off my video, and now it seems better because I see you moving now.
Okay, okay.
So you want to go back to the mold and mold issue or of any kind, like what to do? If there's a high level, you hear me?
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
If there's a high level of airborne mold and mildew in the home, or et cetera, it could take hold perhaps in a watery environment, which is the AquaTrue. And so you need to really regularly clean the 2 tanks. And those of the who have it know, and oh, we don't have a camera, so that doesn't help. There's 2 tanks that you clean the tanks with, soapy, safe, health detergent and warm water and a brush. We're going to be offering a brush just for the AquaTrue, just for making it easy to clean, a very special, neat brush. But one of the things that you can do for atmospheric microbes that seem to be more concentrated in your home, you can do things like put a capful of silver solution in the tanks. It's a great constant disinfecting thing. And there's nothing but silver solution, a capful, even in the RO tank, is just fine. And, many of us take silver every day, especially during this time. So that's one of the things. You can also put in the tanks to disinfect them further, not run it through the.
Cutting out again.
Put drops of Clorox, you can put in hydrogen peroxide. In fact, if you want to ever disinfect the pure water tank, you can just put a capful of regular 3% hydrogen peroxide in there and leave it in. And you can even consume that because it really won't last that long in the RO water that's being made in over whatever 20 minutes or a half an hour.
Okay, good. And I think one of the things that we don't touch on enough regarding the AquaTrue is the efficiency level. Excuse me.
Yes.
But anyway, so, the AquaTrue is the highest percent recovery.
The AquaTrue is the AquaTrue is the most efficient RO system in existence. For a point of use device. It is remarkable. It does some tricks that no one else has mastered, and it's very efficient. Maybe it's compared to under sink ROs, it's maybe 3 to 10 times more efficient in extracting water. So there's very little wasted water, rinse water, if you will, with the AquaTrue. It's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing because conventional RO systems are about 10 to 25% efficiency. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Versus the 65 to 70%. So that's a lot of wastewater with the regular.
It is. And out of sight, out of mind with under sink ROs, most people have no clue of how much water it is. It is like using or wasting, if you will, because it's unnecessary. Most RO systems, or many, are not responsibly made in terms of water efficiency. But the AquaTrue has taken it to another level.
Can you speak to the AquaTrue saying not to use it if you have well water? Is that just an industry-wide standard?
Not true. I mean, if you have well water in your home, supplied by well water, you need to have it tested to see that it's microbiologically safe. Okay, that's number one. And also you can do microbiological treatment, such as a very efficient ultraviolet disinfection system, where the water pipe from your well goes through an ultraviolet disinfection lamp or past the lamp, and it kills every category of microbe there is. That would be very safe to put in the AquaTrue.
I see.
And like I said, I am a fan. I actually put on a regular basis, I put a capful in my pure water tank to keep it disinfected. in my pure water tank of hydrogen peroxide. And sometimes I just dump it out, and really, sometimes I don't.
I see. So we've had a lot of people questioning when they add back the minerals. Once the AquaTrue has removed everything, including the minerals, we want to add back in the entire periodic table of elements with the ketone. So a lot of people have asked
hypertonic.
The hypertonic, correct. So how many do you use? Is there an upper limit? What would you say?
Okay, here's what I recommend. Yes, I recommend for adults that adults take a full ampule or sachet of 10 milliliters of ketone minerals and trace elements hypertonic. You take it separately. The role of ketone hypertonic in a volume of water from AquaTrue is more to revive the water to a more meaningful structure. And this is like very complex part of the subject. Mm-hmm. So you are giving some kind of ionic structure with the soluble minerals and trace elements to the water. And here's what I do. I put in, depending upon my lifestyle, 1 ampule per liter of the ketone.
Okay.
In the AquaTrue, and I don't put it in the AquaTrue tank. I don't add something that is a nutrient to the tank. You can, but you have to keep perhaps cleaning it more. What I advantage of adding it to a special glass container. Mm-hmm. That is actually sold by a company. I'll tell you who it is. It's called AliveWaters.com, and they just sell beautiful containers of glass containers, and they're round like orbs. And I actually put several containers of AquaTrue water in that. I put in 1 ampule per liter or 1 ampule per 2 liters in that water, and I put it out in the sun, early morning sun, to charge it.
I see. Okay. So that will help with rehydrating.
Absolutely.
And allowing the body to really
minerals are the basis. Minerals are the basis of getting water into the cell. Mm-hmm. Water and minerals, of course.
That was actually one of the questions, is why does it seem that as people age, they're not absorbing their water as well? They might be drinking plenty of water, but it goes right through them. Would you say it's because they're missing that?
Many factors that involve everything from cell voltage to cell wall permeability to polyunsaturated fatty acid complexes that are, haven't been maintained properly. This is what happens when people age, and it can be corrected as well. And, people don't pay as much attention to their diets. So the variety of minerals and trace elements is not there. That's why ketone is so important. It actually enables you to get the full periodic table your whole life so easily. So those reasons, I feel extremely hydrated and very active at 76. And I know most people don't have this, and most people don't take ketone. So that's why I spread the word for the last 17 years.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we've been on for an hour and a half, and we haven't even hit half the questions. I'm wondering if we should save the rest for next Monday. We are going to meet up next Monday and do this again.
I'm happy to keep talking until I'm not hydrated anymore.
Well, I mean, we can
So
keep going a few more
here,
minutes. But...
I am here to serve. And, you know, this was kind of a trial thing. We're just learning about how to accommodate our audience the best way. Right. And I think, you know, I'd love to have some tough questions. These were very general and very necessary, the questions that we had. And I want to perhaps, if there's one thing I want to remind everybody of that we should cover the next time is, please, do not buy water treatment equipment for either the whole house. Well, let's start here. Mm-hmm. Typically, a health-minded person requires 2 treatments. This is optimum treatment for your life. A system to treat the water for all the water that comes into the home. This is primarily for safety and your benefit during bathing and showering. Many of the chemicals, especially SOCs and VOCs and probably some pharmaceuticals, you're exposed to them in the shower. A shower is like a gas chamber in a way with some of the chemicals like trihalomethane. So you need some kind of responsible point of entry or whole house system. 90% of the people choose the wrong one. It could be even 95, okay? They have no clue. Why do they have no clue? It's because they never thought, and it's not an easy solution, they never thought to look at the water, what's in their water. They have no idea.
So Robert, other than going to, you can go online and certainly get your water quality report, which you've said many times.
Let's tell them how.
Okay.
Let's tell them how. Just look up water quality report for Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. I mean, that's what you put in, and you're going to find an official. But when the next time we talk, it can be, even that process, Angela, is hazardous because a lot of promoting companies will also respond. They will have their own site for each city and direct you to their product. They will show you a partial content of the water contaminants, but it will all be aimed at selling their product. You want to get the official one for the city. And it is, and you can tell it, you have your city picture on it and talk about it. And it's usually done for the previous year. Like, you know, Chicago Water Quality Report of 2020.
But those are very difficult to understand for the layperson. So are there any tests that are simple that someone can purchase themselves to use on their water, to test the water themselves?
For certain contaminants there are, but there's far too many important contaminants that you do not require very sophisticated laboratory analysis, mass spectrometry, you know, all of the colorimetric things and the analytical tools. And so I believe we still have a kit that can give somebody an idea of what's in their water. It's very good to know your dissolved solids. But I think that in the course of these webinars, I believe we can put on a webinar that helps people read most of their water analysis.
That's important. We've had so many people inquiring about this and what whole house system.
And people do send me, time permitting, I do tell people. I probably do 5 a week for people to tell them, don't buy this. And it's heartbreaking because people have bought absolutely the wrong thing for their water. And, you know, just something shocked me even after knowing all this stuff for 50 years. something shocked me. I just read the water report to show you how complex this can be for St. George, Utah. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, St. George, I think it's in the mountains, but when we come to, I looked at their total dissolved solids. This is fascinating, Angela. Total dissolved solids for a typical city, area, whatever. You could pick it. San Diego, Orange County, you know, Miami Beach. Let's say it's 300 parts per million. Typically, it might vary 5 or 10% throughout the year. Maybe it'll be 350 in one month and maybe 360 in another month or 340 in another month. It will vary somewhat, but it's typically a small amount. St. George TDS throughout the year varied from 92 parts per million to 908 parts per million.
You're kidding me. That much variation?
I mean, I've never seen that before.
Wow.
Now, there's no consumer and much less no consumer or company could even, you have to go digging. You have to really go digging why this is to know what to put in. This is like going to another country. Each analysis of the water. It was so extreme. I'd never seen anything like it. I actually called them today. No one has returned my call to ask, how is this vary so much?
How is that possible? Did they have a glitch in their system?
I could make up a scenario. You know, some months of the year, they just get melted snow from the local mountains, and then that runs out. And then the groundwater that they have has lots of minerals in it because of the nature of the deposits there. And then they have to use that for the rest of the year. So that's how it could happen.
Wow. Interesting. So the take-home message would be that the people do need to first get the report and then talk to someone knowledgeable, or we will go into more detail about that in the future in teaching people what they need to look out for. And then at that point, they would hire an expert that would tell them, that would diagnose. And
I don't think you need, I mean, I'm actually, I'll tell you something that I'm trying to formulate. Seriously. I am trying to establish a group of people, much like people who do blood analysis. Because the water is much more simple in a way, once you learn it, than blood analysis, okay? And that these people just make this, you know, they're like accountants. And they have certain things they look for, and they're gonna nail it 90% of the time. That's my hope this year, is to have this team assembled, and they can look at it and we can say, I can teach them all that I know, and we can say, here's how to do this. Here's how to instruct our customers and customers who want to look for the proper point of entry and point of use water treatment system. But I would say right now, most people are buying the wrong thing.
Okay, good to know, very important. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's
I mean, pardon?
Go ahead, Robert.
Well, I mean, I'm very upset about our internet connection. We definitely need to solve that, because I had a lot of things I wanted to show people that we're not able to easily do because I've turned off my screen and all that stuff. But you know, I think we've learned enough to know what can happen, and we hope that our audience sends in some, like, hey, how can we make this better for you? What are things that we missed? We know what we missed. I mean, we missed 80% of it, frankly, and we could go on for the rest of the night with how important and vast this subject is. But part of the goal is that you get the right, safe water in your house. Right. And you know, you really should, you know, at least restrict yourself from a point of use standpoint, meaning for your drinking water only and your food preparation and baby's formula, you should focus on distillation plus activated carbon or reverse osmosis plus activated carbon. And 10, shy away. Oh, I'm so glad I got this in. Shy away from buying, if you don't have one, from a conventional undersink RO. And if you have an undersink RO, if you have an undersink reverse osmosis system, if it's more than 4 years old, just throw it away. Okay? That's one thing.
Okay. Over 4 years, throw it away.
If it's young, if it's less than 4 years old, I mean, it could be 5 years old, it could be 3 years old. I mean, this is not cast in stone. But the most important thing I want to tell you is this. If you have an undersink RO system and someone is critically ill in your family, meaning a child with autism, an immune disease, somebody with AIDS or HIV or anything, Lyme disease, you want to drain that tank every single evening when you're completely done using the water. Every evening. You cannot subject that person, or you can use a SteriPen to sterilize the water. But even then, I recommend you drain it. For those of you who have no critically ill people, no children with autism in the family, I recommend draining it every 3 days. Completely. Till no water comes out of the faucet. No water comes out of the faucet. Close the faucet. It'll be filled the next morning.
Okay. Wonderful.
I'm so glad I got that in because it's so important.
Yes. Well, thank you, Robert. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will continue this probably next Monday. Also, we will get to the questions. I apologize. There's so many of them, and they're all very important. So we will work on that next Monday. These will be recorded as well, so we can share them with you. And then also, if you do want to go over to waterandwellness.com/webinar, you can get 15% off the AquaTrue, also replacement filters, and then some of our most popular water additives. So that's available. You can go over there. And thank you, Robert. It's so wonderful to learn from you. As many times as I hear you speak, I always learn something new.
Cool. Very good. Now we got to learn how to make better internet connection.
We will get there. We'll get there.
Thank you very much for being a great hostess.
Thank you.
And colleague. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.